Hi there and welcome to this lecture about the Middle Ages. My name is Marcus Henriksson and I'm a history teacher here in Sweden. The Middle Ages begin in the year 476, when the city Rome was conquered, and this is also known as the end of the Roman Empire. That is at least the Western Roman Empire. The Eastern Roman Empire would continue to live on and take a new name, the Byzantine Empire. But who did conquer the city Rome and put an end to the Roman Empire as we know it? Well, it was the Goths. Where did they come from? Well, most historians today believe that the Goths were not a Germanic tribe per se, but instead that they originated from Sweden. Most likely the island known as Gotland, which has the number 1 in this picture, because of the name, Gotland, Gothland. But yeah, they could have also originated from the southern of Sweden, we don't know for sure. But it is known today that these people moved and conquered lands in Eastern Europe. And after that, they then continued to conquer Rome, for example. We also have the Vandals. If you look at ancient history, most historians believe that they came from Germany, but today most historians believe that these people come from lands like Sweden, Denmark, perhaps Norway. We can't really know for sure. But both the Goths and the Vandals have gotten a really bad reputation. I mean, to vandalize something is to destroy something. And Goths, well, when you think about Goths, you usually associate them with darkness, devil worship, vampires, and so on. But you should know that they weren't just warriors. I mean, they contributed to a lot of different things. They were creators. So they were really good at stuff like architecture, art, forging jewelry, weapons, and so on. But yeah, when the city of Rome fell, it was a messy time. I mean, immediately after the collapse of Rome, things got a little bit weird. The state system that Rome had offered didn't longer exist. So new countries had to be forged, some roads grew again, trade was not as great as before, robbers and bandits became more and more common, and so on. It did take some time for a new, let's say, state to evolve and new countries to take over after the Romans. So during this time we can see that several myths were created, stuff like werewolves, witches, fairies, and so on. But yeah, the people that conquered Western Rome did take several areas. The Goths took over Italy and Spain. The Franconia or Franks from Germany took over France. The Angles and the Saxons that originated from Denmark took control of England and some parts of Great Britain. The Vandals, that is from Sweden, Denmark, perhaps Norway or Germany, took over most of northern Africa as well as many islands in the Mediterranean Sea, Corsica, Sicily, and so on. So the Middle Ages is a time period between roughly the year 500 to 1500. And it is known as the Middle Ages because it is between two important periods. But yeah, we can see several important kingdoms during this time. The Byzantine Empire, like I mentioned before, continued to survive. And they even tried to reconquer the old Roman Empire. However, they did not succeed completely, but yeah, they took control of large areas, as you can see in the picture here. But then they were devastated by the plague that killed almost half of their population, and yeah, they received several attacks from, for example, the Persians. So they couldn't retake all of the old Roman Empire. But during this time we can see that Christianity survived and thrived during this time. It became increasingly stronger. More and more countries became Christian countries, the numbers of Christians exploded, churches and monasteries were built all over Europe during the Middle Ages. And often they used the same places as before. I mean, they even sometimes used the same stones. Take, for example, the Nordic countries. We worshipped different gods like Odin, Thor, Loki, and so forth, and built temples. When we became Christian, they basically turned those temples into churches. And to make an even smoother transition from those kind of beliefs to Christianity, they usually kept the same times for holidays, such as Christmas. Here in Denmark, Sweden, Norway, and Iceland, we had a tradition called Jul. And during that time, they were some kind of feasts. You ate and drank a lot of mead and so forth. So in order for the Vikings to turn to Christianity, they picked the same dates. That is the 24th of December, so that the people could easily switch from old beliefs to new beliefs. They even made Jesus look cool, I mean large, strong, and so on, and told the people that he was the strongest of the gods, in order for them to switch religion. But how could they afford to build all those churches and monasteries? Well, they created a new tax on every 10th item every year, as well as inheritance. So many rich people were basically promised to go to paradise and heaven if they gave everything they owned to the church. And to promote this even further, they also made places inside the churches for really important / rich people that they could be buried in. Because the closer to the church or the priest, the more holy you would become, or the more safer you were to travel to paradise / heaven when you die. But yeah, during this time we can also see that basically everything that contradicted the new Christian teaching and belief was banned and destroyed. Historians estimate today that as much as 90% of ancient books, art and texts were destroyed. Some were preserved, but most were destroyed. And it was also the start of a really dark time for LGBTQI people. I mean, basically during ancient times in Greece and Rome and so forth, they were really nice to homosexuals. In some societies like Sparta, they even promoted and made it mandatory. But during the Middle Ages we can see a shift in the mindset against people like homosexuals. So Christianity made it illegal, they made it wrong. Islam made it the same, I mean illegal and wrong, and so on. And in order to govern these new kingdoms that would continue to evolve after the fall of the Roman Empire, the king/queen usually allied themselves with the church. Why, you might ask? Well, the church, like I mentioned before, had an enormous and tremendous power. So in order for the king to claim the throne, he could, if he allied with the church, say that his power came from God and that God had appointed him to be the new leader of the people. And the church would also then claim that they had received the king's right to rule over the people's religion and belief. So basically, the church made the king look good and the king made the church look good. So basically the king and queen gave the church a monopoly of religion, and in exchange the church would say that you should follow the king's teachings and rulings and laws and so forth because he was appointed by God. But how should you defend these new kingdoms? Well, the king and queen could usually not afford to defend the entire kingdom by themselves. They needed allies and above all expensive knights. Because during this time, knights were basically the new tanks. But yeah, they cost a lot of money, usually 12 annual salaries. So how could the king and queen afford them? Well, the solution was the creation of the vassal system, that is, the nobles. They were given the job to defend the country, coming with horses, knights, soldiers, and so forth. And in exchange for doing this, they would not have to pay taxes, as well as given some land areas, and so on. And the important thing here is that the title they were given was hereditary. That means it would pass down from the father/mother to the sons and the daughters. So basically every generation from then on would be tax-free. So they became tremendously powerful and wealthy during this time. They could tax the farmers, they didn't have to pay tax themselves, so they could now build the best defense facilities of this time, which were the castles. And you can see some here in the pictures. These castles was created in lands like England, France, Spain, Italy, Germany, and so on. And it was really hard to take control of these kind of fortresses. I mean, just look at them. So yeah, the king and queen and the nobles and the priest, they had a good time. But what about the rest of the population? The peasants got the biggest tax burden. They were often serfs in most of Europe, but not in the Nordic countries like Sweden, for example. So yeah, they had to pay huge taxes in order for the king to get his luxury lifestyle, his soldiers and so on, for the churches to build new monasteries and churches. And yeah, they were also often short of money. So what was their life like? Well, hard. A lot of physical labor and work. They usually started working at a very early age. They got up early in the morning, they worked until late at night, and so on. So during the Middle Ages, we can see that a new system has been created known as the feudal system. The king and queen at the top. Then we have the nobles and the major priests and bishops and so on. Then we have the soldiers. Then we have the people who lived in the cities, the tradespeople and so on. And at the bottom we have the farmers. One really great king during the Middle Ages was Charlemagne. And he governed a vast empire and area that covered most of France, most of Germany, and about half of Italy. And in order for him to conquer this vast empire, he attacked several regions. And during his conquest, thousands of people were killed, plundered, and raped. But he became Roman emperor in the year 800 as a reward for the wars against the pagans. And he also contributed to the preservation of many writings and increased literacy among the population. But after he died, his kingdom was split into 3 different parts, one for each of his sons. And then they would battle among one another and so on, and this instability would then be exploited by many, including the Vikings. So why do we call the Middle Ages for the Dark Ages? Well, especially because of the plague, but also because of the poverty and the wars, mostly in Europe. If we look at Asia, for example, they had a really prosperous time, especially the Chinese and the Indians. But yeah, in Europe, countries like France and England fought one another constantly. The cities was more dirty than ever before. No running drains, no public toilets, and so forth, like you had during the time of the Roman Empire. And you can see some religious persecutions, especially against homosexuals, but yeah, the church also tried to ban dancing. But to say that the Middle Ages should be known as the Dark Ages, well, it is misleading in several ways. The population during this time increased, trade increased, culture flourished, new nations were formed. We can see that the technology moved forward. Here you have the mill, for example. And the cloisters and monasteries, they were center of much stuff like medicine, arts, medicine, botany, science, and so on. We have great tournaments between knights. So yeah, it is a really interesting period in the world's history. The sources I have used for this video are History by Elisabeth Ivansson and Matthias Todai, A History of World Societies by John P. McKay, World History in New Perspective by Clyde Ponting, Perspective on History by Lars Hans and Örjan Nyström, History Info Group, Wikipedia, A Tour of Europe, Medieval History Documentary, The Dark Ages, An Age of Light, Was Charlemagne French or German, History of France, French Empires and Republics, Charlemagne, the Father of Europe, The Dark Ages Documentary, The Power of the Medieval Castle, The Colorful World of Medieval Castle Painting, Building a Medieval Castle, The Art of Medieval Combat, Who Would Inherit Europe After the Romans, Gothland, Visby Last Stand, Was the Dark Ages Really That Dark? Was What was the normal life like in Anglo-Saxon Britain? Charlemagne the Emperor versus the Vikings. Vandal Kingdom in Africa. Charlemagne's brutal massacre. Alaric's sack of Rome. How dark were the Dark Ages? The real history of Charlemagne's Christian Europe, and so on and so on. But if you have any comments at all, feel free to leave them in the comment section below. Otherwise, I wish you a good day. Bye.